Have a big successful start to that new plan.
To me, it was about building relationships, really getting reacquainted with the people we asked to support a progressive program that helps lift up every American and give them a shot at the American dream. And then also says that, hey, we're all in this thing together. Nobody's excluded. You know, one of the people who you work with was a young man I happen to know a little bit, Keaon, Dousti, organizing director for Ellison for Congress. And he was out there on the ground, 22-year-old guy, banging it out all the time. And when Keaon is ready to come on, let me know. Is Keaon ready? There's Keaon. Keaon, I can hear you, Keaon. How you doing, man?
How's it going?
Keaon.
How you doing?
I'm okay, man. I'm here with Ryan. We're on Democrats Live. And, you know, it's funny. Right behind you was a sign that says Organize, Empower. Was that like an accident, or you just set it up that way?
Nah, our office is always like that. That's what we're about.
So, hey, man, give me some numbers, man. What'd you guys do in the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota?
Yeah, so this summer, really about 2.5 months, we called over 46,000 folks, residents of City 5, and we talked to almost 5,000 people. And overwhelmingly, the folks we talked to are people that either feel left behind or were never engaged with the party. So we're trying to do deep relationship building and get a sense of community back in the streets here, and do a precinct by precinct model and make sure more than anything, people feel valued and listened to.
So did you, how did you do it? Did you hire everybody? Did you get volunteers? How did you pull this off?
So we had a mix. We had 21 amazing interns and fellows. They came from all around, all ages. They weren't just young. We had some old folks. We had some, you know, all different types of people. And then we had over 200 volunteers come out and join us this summer to knock doors, to come out to different events. We had a few big events as well. We had a Democratic messaging one. Over 150 people came, and ended it with a barbecue where over 400 people came as well, to really come together and talk about what we got to do moving forward.
That's right, man. So what do you think, what'd you hear out there on the doors?
So more than anything, what we asked folks, we weren't asking for a vote, we weren't asking for money, we were asking about them. We wanted to know what they thought about the party, how it could improve, and what issues were going on their day to day. What we heard overwhelmingly was that Democrats need to go big and bold with their policies and start fighting more. They need to put the people over, you know, the donors, and they need to come around and door knock more in the off years and really try to push on engagement in those face-to-face conversations. And what we heard on issues was that healthcare was dominating. I think about for every 10 people we talked to, 6 or 7 said that healthcare was the #1 issue going on in their lives. And what we learned more than anything this summer is that it's not about running to the right or to the left, it's about running to what the people want and what they have going on in their lives.
All right. Well, you know, what do you think about how the 5th district fit into the overall effort there, Ryan?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this summer, and Keaon was kind of hitting on it. I think your Resistance Summer really fit into, you know, the organizing strategy for the new DNC. We talk about our new mission is 4 things: so to rebuild, to organize, to modernize, and that's going to help us win. And Resistance Summer in Minnesota, they knocked 40,000 doors. Around the country, we set out to do that in every single state. So the first thing we did is working to rebuild state parties. Right. We had 45 states get involved in this program, and they hired 125 on-the-ground folks to do this.
That's outrageous.
So it's happening all over the country, right? So we brought 125 young organizers to D.C., put them through a week-long organizing boot camp to build that infrastructure so that, you know, not just now in 2017 where we had really big fights, we had those organizers, but also we're investing in, you know, the future regional field folks, the future campaign managers for all these races going down the line.
You know, before you move on to that, I want to just share with the folks watching that, you know, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, I'm on my Twitter feed right now, so just pop on in, going over to, you know, at Keith Ellison. We'll answer your questions right here, right now. So we'd like to let folks know that. And then also, I'd just like to say that on the training that was done, I want to say the training was awesome. It was half white, half people of color. It was, I think, mostly women, and you know, about 48%. There was a couple of really veteran organizers like Chuck Rocha, who was there, who's, everybody, people who know Chuck, because Chuck's really been at this, and Arnie Blanco, and both of them who have trained a lot of people, literally thousands of people all over the country, said that this was one of the best trainings that they had ever seen. So, any other feedback you want to put into it about what people did at that training?
Yeah, so I think that training was really helpful, because then folks took these skills, and we saw that these organizers, we also gave them the same toolkit to go back to their states and train people at the local level, everything from county party, Democratic leaders to resistance activists. So this summer we had over 2,000 different events held by these. A bunch of them were trainings, and 1,000 activists came out to learn how to organize with our Democratic Party organizers. So learn how to knock doors, how to phone bank, how to organize and speak at a town hall about issues.
Yeah.
So the training here was meant to be kind of that starting nucleus to be able to build it out all over the country. So each activist got it in zip codes all over the country.
Yeah. Keaon, Ryan, I just like to get your take on this. My idea is that a message is basically a three-pronged thing. The first piece of a message is relationship, and that means presence. Before you say a word, before you write a word, if you are there in a palpable, feelable way in people's lives, and they know you're there, and they see you, and you show up, that to me is part of the message. And you can't hope to have a good message if you're not in a regular communication with people, and that's not just emails and stuff, that is in their face physically with them. Number two is, the words do matter, but the words start with listening to people. We're not trying to impose an ideology from the outside, right or left. We're trying to listen to the people and then serve them by representing their interests, which is what the first thing helps the second, because if you're talking to people, they'll tell you, I can't make my rent. I hope my kids can go to college one day. I'd like to retire. They'll tell you what they need. And then the third thing is you got to do what you said you're going to do. The Democratic Party, if we're for the working people, we got to always be there for, they don't even expect us to always be successful, but they expect us to always be faithful. Never be found not fighting for the best interests of working people across this nation, and small business people and farmers. And so what do you think? Do you think we made a good start at building that solid relationship?
I think so. And Keaon talked about, and we were hearing the same thing all over the country. Healthcare was the #1 issue people were talking about, the doors. I think #2 people talked about was the economy. People were also asking us all the time, what's the plan? Right. And they had good feedback on, what Democrats should be doing. And Keaon talked a little bit about that. They wanted to know that we had a plan, because we need to make sure that we're moving forward on healthcare versus seeing that get repealed. And they also want to see us winning back seats in their state legislatures. So I think one thing that we were able to really both hear from folks and communicate out, that organizing is going to be a core piece of the new Democratic Party's plan. And we were telling them the new plan is we're in every single zip code.
That's right. That's right.
There's no more off years. So 50 state strategy, every single zip code strategy. And I think people really responded to that. And saw us out there constantly at their doors. And Resistance Summer is really just the beginning of that. But it's that kind of long-term investment that's gonna matter. I think a good example, I was talking to a state party director who said in the last presidential election, this time in the off year, what they used to call it, they were not in fighting form at all. He put it, we're not in fighting form. This summer they had 6 full-time organizers working, all over the state, and said they've never felt more in fighting form. They knocked over 20,000 doors, and really feel like they're getting ready and building that infrastructure, and people are going to be able to plug in and engage with the party year-round, all the time, right in their neighborhood, versus just seeing us come every 4 years. Well,
what you're saying is success is a cumulative thing. Success is something that builds upon itself. Heather, I think you got a question or something, or?
1 minute.
Oh, 1 more minute. Okay. Well, hey, Keaon, we're gonna get a super organizer in here from New Hampshire in a minute. Anything you want to leave us with before we move on over to Amy?
Yeah, if folks want to get involved, we're trying to lower the bar of activism by doing, knock your blocks, making sure that instead of you coming to us, we'll come to you and help you get out and organize. There's the Knock 10 app that the DNC has too, where you can go knock 10 doors.
Download it.
And also, when we say everybody Yeah, and we say everybody counts, everybody matters, on our campaign. We mean that. That's not just a slogan. That's what we live by. If you want a spot on this campaign, we'll make it for you. Whether that's knocking doors, registering voters, calling, or just cooking up some food for volunteers. We need all the help we can get.
One last question, Keaon. Come 2018, are you going to have to get ready, or are you going to be ready?
Oh, we're already ready.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? That's right, man. Thank you, Keaon.
Thanks, Keaon.
Hey, Keaon is one of those young stars out there, 22-year-old guy, organizing all these folks in the field campaign. He's not even my campaign manager. He's the field director. But one of the things that I know that you do if you have an organizing core is that young talent gets developed and comes up. And we had a bunch of folks who had never knocked a door before, and they were a little nervous about doing it. But Keaon trained them, we trained them, and they went out there and they started doing it, and then they realized they could do it. And we had, and I mean, look, let's just be candid here. Sometimes people think that, maybe can I knock doors in a neighborhood where the people don't look like me? If I'm black, can I go to a white neighborhood? If I'm a white, can I go to a black neighborhood? I mean, if I'm a Somali, do I only go talk to the Somalis? And what we found over the course of the summer is that anyone could go anywhere as long as they were trained right. And that as long as they reached out in a friendly way, learned as they listened, as long as they knew how to walk away when people weren't trying to hear it, we train people to be able to be really effective. And what we found is there's a lot of people who had never done it before who are now, they're even talking about running for office themselves because they just got bit by the bug, man, and now they're jacked and they're excited.
Yeah. I was talking to our folks in North Carolina. They said 40% of the people who came out and volunteered in their last day of action had never been involved in 40%. Activism before. They had never knocked a door. And that's the kind of moment that we're in right now. And I think these early investments are going to really pay off. I think one of my favorite examples of getting ready is what Michigan did this summer.
Oh, Michigan was great.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, we all know in the last presidential, there's 3 states, right, that gave Donald Trump the White House by 80,000 votes. So it's really close. And now we've got him in the White House, and Michigan was 12,000 votes to win that state for the presidential. This summer, Michigan was that state that put 6 on-the-ground organizers on the ground. They have something called Project 83, which is a plan in every single county in Michigan. 83
counties, huh?
83 counties in Michigan. So they've got people, Marinos in Detroit, working in those counties. They've got someone up on the UP, all the way up on the Upper Peninsula.
That's right.
And they, I was just talking to them. They had 1,300 volunteers come out and take action this summer in Michigan.
Incredible.
And knocked over 20,000 doors. And so that's the idea. And just in 12 weeks, and at the same time in the last presidential, they didn't have any ground game nearly to that level. So it's kind of an unprecedented investment. It's happening in Michigan. It's happening in Pennsylvania. It's happening in Texas. So
we're going
to be ready.
With this organizing model, Ryan, it kind of smashes this ridiculous conversation we've been having over the last since the election. Should we go for the white working class, or should we go to women and communities of color? The truth is, we can go to all if we invest state parties with the resources they need to canvass their whole state. Because in those 83 counties, some of them are going to be Detroit, a lot of people of color, but in the UP, you're going to have a lot of farmers, a lot of white people, a lot of people who are, you're going to have a diverse group. My point is, you don't have to choose. You can't choose. They're all Americans. We love them all. We want them all. And it just sort of blows up this idea that there's some choice to be made. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think the results, both in terms of where we're organizing and who we're electing, show that. So last night we won a special election in Florida for Annette Taddeo, who's a fantastic Latina Democrat in the Miami area, and then we were winning elections in Red, Oklahoma. This summer we flipped 2 Republican seats in Oklahoma. So we're investing all over the country. It's kind of this, we talk about the every zip code matters strategy here at the DNC now. And absolutely.
Well, that is a great setup for our next guest. Let me tell you, Amy Kennedy. Amy is the executive director of the New Hampshire Democratic Party. Amy is going to be joining us right now indirectly. Oh, no, she isn't. But
question now.
Oh, we do? Well, what do we got?
Can you talk more about what you're doing to include women of color?
This is an excellent question. Can we talk more about what we're doing to include women of color? Well, I mean, you want to take a smack at that? I'm actually really proud of our record. I mean, as you just mentioned, a woman of color just got elected in Florida last night, Annette Doyle. So we're electing them to office. But you want to elaborate? And I got plenty to say about it.
Yeah, I think when we put together at the beginning of the summer, everyone at the DNC was really focused on making sure to make extra strides in electing, people of color, and also making sure that everyone at the DNC, we're diversifying our staff. So when we put out our grant program to state parties to talk to them about, their plans, one of the things we talked about is, can you list how you're going to focus on organizing base communities, how you're going to focus on recruiting diverse staff. And you talked about at the training, we had 50% of the people at that training who were hired through the program from state parties were people of color, 50% women, because it's something that, every single day we recognize we got to do better.
Yep.
And that matters. And so they're out there focusing on that. And I think we've been seeing good strides. There's obviously more to keep doing, but that's been a really good step.
Yeah, but the point is we're reaching out to everybody. We believe that everybody counts, everybody matters. That happens to be my campaign slogan, but it's applicable in this situation. And I'm excited about it because there is this idea that there is some choice to be made here, and there really isn't. The choice is engaging all Americans everywhere. And Annette Doyle, her election was exciting. But there was a lot of women of color who were helping to lead this effort. I mean, like the Michigan effort, I mean, the executive director of the Michigan Democratic Party is a woman of color, She was the field marshal in that fight, and many other places around the country. So I just think that it's a great question. Keep asking us, keep pushing us, because we want to be as inclusive as this country is, this country. And I'm proud of the Democrats nowadays because, as the other side is elected one guy who got in a fist fight a few days before the election in Montana. The other one, I'm not even going to say his name, but, bam, there you go. They're getting less tolerant, less inclusive, less American, and we're getting more inclusive, we're reaching our arms out more. Like people look at that American Eagle, well, that's big wingspan, and we're reaching it out for everybody. Women of color, people, everybody.
And part of that is which has been a big piece this summer, is engaging with progressive allies, with the new grassroots, new wave organizations. So
talk about it.
This summer, we focused on winning two short-term things. We focused on winning short-term elections. We also focused on winning on issues that were happening this summer. While we're building for the long term. And so we had healthcare, we had DACA, many other issues, and so we recognize as a party we've got to focus on these local races and flip these seats, but we also got to be out there every single day fighting with the Dreamers and standing up for them, out there every single day fighting for people who are going to get kicked off Medicaid, people who are primarily low income, people of color, stand up for them. So that's something that the party focused a lot on, and we made sure that we were there at the rallies, flooding the offices with phone calls for members of Congress. And I think that's being there day in, day out in every single district, doing that issue organizing too, is what's going to make people realize that Democrats are fighting on behalf of these values every single day, not just coming around asking for votes at the end. And that's part of the new DNC.
Well, people know when all you do is want their vote. But people really, actually an election is a one-off. And what I mean by that is an election is a means to a democracy, a society in which everybody is included and can meet their needs. An election is how we do that. But what people really, really want, what we're doing all this for, is to have an inclusive society where everybody can make a good living and be treated with respect. That's what we're fighting for, a community that people can really live in and be proud of. But what our case is, getting to that community requires your democratic participation. And that means we got to go and invite people to be part of it. So I think we're ready with Amy now. Amy Kennedy, you out there, Amy? Congratulations on some big wins.
I am here. Thank you very much for having me today.
Well, Amy, let me tell you, Ryan Doyle and I are sitting right here, and we are just really impressed with what New Hampshire has been putting up over the last several months, including up until last night. You want to give folks a preview?
Absolutely. Thank you. And like Ryan said earlier, no more off years is right. We have been full steam ahead since November of 2016. We have won 5 of 7 special elections this year.
5 of 7. I'd say that's pretty good percentage.
5 of 7. We're very proud of it.
Do you want to list the names of the folks who won?
Sure. So the first was the first in the nation when Edie Damaris won the state house race in Wolfboro, which is Mitt Romney's second hometown. We had Representative Chris Schultz win a landslide victory by 56% margin in Concord. We also have Senator Kevin Kavanaugh, who I know you've had on the show before.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the first Democrat to win that district in a very, well, prior to the incumbent, unfortunately, but he just ran with that race and was an overwhelming victory. And then just last night, we had Democrat Harry Lerner won the fourth most Republican district in New Hampshire. And the towns in that district collectively had 20% more registered Republicans and Democrats. And Donald Trump won this district by 23 points. And that was our hardest challenge yet.
Well, you know, Amy, that is wonderful news. I guess there are lessons to be drawn here. What do you think some of those might be?
Yeah, well, I think, Amy, I know I was talking to you. If you could talk a little bit more about what you did in New Hampshire, just some of the maybe some of the numbers or some of the results, because I think leading up to winning those races, New Hampshire was absolutely on it in terms of organizing and getting ready.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm remiss not to mention Democrat Charlie St. Clair, who just won in Laconia as well with a landslide. For us, it really came down to investing in grassroots at the local level. We have town committees in nearly every town in the state with functioning chairs and executive committees. And 53% of those committees are made up of brand new members, first-time members. These groups are meeting consistently. They've organized themselves around these special elections. And we've seen time and time again that the single most effective way to turn out voters is neighbors to neighbors. Our summer resistance program helped us build up our local committees and organize around these special elections. And since June 1st, we've had over 66,000 voter contact attempts. We've had 126 town or county committee meetings that we've attended, and we've had 111 one-on-one meetings to build relationships throughout the state. And these wins have demonstrated that by recruiting the right candidate for the district and executing a robust field program with local volunteers, that any district can be competitive.
Well, you know, that's exciting. And as you tick off those numbers, I want folks watching to slow down and just consider that each one of those contacts is a relationship that we're building. Even if you don't actually get the person at the door leaving something, they're knowing that we care, we're having a presence. And then when you actually talk to them, you know, you're building a trust relationship that will endure over time. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, well, tell us this. So you talked about a few of the things that you did. Did you guys have fun out there this summer doing this resistance summer stuff? I mean, what was the esprit de corps?
Absolutely. People loved it. There's such a groundswell of energy across the state, like there is across the country, starting from the anger surrounding Donald Trump's election. But we're seeing large groups of people, new people, want to fold into our party and want to become leaders and want to become strong activists in their communities, and are now willing to go door to door and talk to their neighbors about why organizing in 2017, 2018, and into 2020 is so important. We've had a lot of fun with this. We've had some great staff on the ground, and we've met a lot of really great new people who we know we're going to continue working to build those relationships, but will be a part of our party for a long time.
So what would you advise someone if they're really frustrated with Donald Trump and they're throwing their socks at the TV screen every time he says something crazy? What would your advice be?
Gonna run out of socks.
You'll run out of socks, right? I would say go to your local town committee meeting. Go to your first meeting. Go talk to your neighbors. Guaranteed you're going to know someone there. And if you don't, you've just made a whole group of new. These are folks that you can talk to every day about your frustrations about the election, about the administrations and the tomfoolery happening in Washington and across the state. But go reach out. Take the first step and go into your town committee and see what you can do to help.
You know, Ryan, we got to start tabulating a new number. because you find a lot of people, myself included, saying we lost over 900 seats in state legislatures across the country since 2008. Well, because of the work of you and Amy and others, we're starting to build them back now. So we got to start keeping track of that number. Yeah. We are on the comeback trail, and people can be part of it if they'd like to be.
Yeah, and after last night with the Wynn flipping a seat in Florida with Annette Taddeo, winning the seat in New Hampshire.
St. Clair, yep.
We are now 8 seats that are flipped that went to Republicans. Previously, a Republican held, went to Donald Trump.
8 red to blue Donald Trump
summer.
Seats.
Yep.
8 red to blue seats.
So 2 in Oklahoma, 1 in Iowa, 1 in Florida, 3 in New Hampshire. We're starting to actually tally those up, right? So we're winning these races, and I think it's these are places that many of them were won by 20 points by Republicans before.
Sure.
But when we're investing, day in and day out, and organizing people, talking to them about our values, they're responding, and they're excited to get behind voting for Democrats and get involved in it.
So does organizing on the grassroots level give us any answers about what we can do, like right now, about all the massive gerrymandering? I mean, if we increase turnout and if we engage people, what could happen even in a gerrymandered district?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things we're thinking about for gerrymandering, right? Because we know that so many of these seats in Congress have been a result of gerrymandering, where now the districts are not representative of the states, and but we know that usually the people writing those rules are going to be the governor and the state legislature, and so if it's controlled by one party, they're rigging the rules on the Republican side.
Sure.
Where we think it should be an absolutely fair process based on population and the votes. So we need to win governor's races.
Sure.
We need to win state legislative races. And that starts in places like Virginia this fall, where there's a governor's race and a bunch of important state legislative races. In Virginia, we're seeing more women, people of color, and millennials running as Democrats than we've ever seen. It's incredibly exciting, the field of people that are out there running. And that's going to set up who wins this fall in Virginia, sets us up for the next census in 2020 to decide those districts.
Yep.
So the first thing is winning some of those races. But then second, even in places where we've been just outside because they're gerrymandered, if we do increase turnout, we can see those districts swing back. So losing by 20 points in some of these seats and then winning them this summer is an example of when we're out there, when we're talking to people, and when we get out the vote, we can still win in districts that weren't competitive before.
Well, that's my thought. I mean, we cannot sit back and just be disappointed and sad about gerrymandering. We can blast through some of those gerrymandered districts if we get out there like you and Amy have been leading the way this summer. Amy, anything about can we win in these deep red districts? And how, what do you think? Folks across the country thinking,
absolutely.
Can we win there? What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. It takes the right candidate and the right ground game to do it. We're proving that it's absolutely possible, and we're really proud of our efforts on the ground.
For people who are out there thinking about, for the first time perhaps, maybe I'll run for office, when you say right candidate, what are some of the things that you might have in mind? Anything, what makes a right candidate?
I think it's someone who has a passion for the work,
yep.
Someone who has the desire to talk to folks in their community, someone who is knowledgeable of their community, and someone who's willing to improve it, someone who's connected to the community, who has had conversations, who has joined a board of directors or been a super volunteer at the soup kitchen, someone who's doing the work and who's willing to knock doors and make phone calls and talk to their neighbors, who's willing to do the work.
Well, that's Annette Taddeo story. I mean, she ran 3 times and didn't win. Ran for Congress. That's how I met her. But she just won because she is that person you just described. And Ryan, did you notice that Amy did not say you have to be a self-funder? She did not say you have to be independently rich. She didn't say nothing like that. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're rethinking, people are rethinking the rules, right? It's like unprecedented amount of people are running from a really diverse set of backgrounds, and we've got to back them all up.
Yep.
And that's it's like people are running in red Oklahoma.
Sure.
Oftentimes these districts, we left them behind. Now we're competing, we're putting organizers on the ground, we're knocking doors, we're backing them up. So I think we're seeing with the frustration around, Trump and everything happening, we're seeing a number of people step up who are saying, look, I'll run, and
Yep.
I'll run as a Democrat because I believe in Democratic values, and as long as we're there, with that ground game that Amy's talking about, we're going to see a lot of them win.
And I also want to say a special thank you to the people who ran but didn't win. Because, first of all, let me say there's no dishonor in not winning. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't lose. Nanette today lost 3 times in a row. But we cannot just concede some of these really red districts, right? We can't just not run there, because by running in that seat, even if you don't win, you will have pulled out a bunch of Dems who thought there was nobody was going to step up for their value system. Mm-hmm. And now when we run statewide, we will have that many more energized and engaged people than we had before, because you ran even if you're not successful. Any thoughts on that topic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And we're seeing a number of people continuing to say, because both we're running in places we haven't run before, and we're out knocking in places we haven't knocked. They're saying, I haven't had a Democrat come to my door in years. And so we're seeing that a bunch this summer. And I think so. This, we think about the summer as just a beginning of this plan. I think we definitely want folks to know that Resistance Summer is now translated out of the summer into what we're calling Rise and Organize.
Rise and Organize, hashtag Rise and Organize.
Exactly. And I think people can get involved in Rise and Organize if they text RISE to 43367.
Yep.
So now we're out of the summer. Yesterday we had our first Rise and Organize action for National Voter Registration Day. I was down in Virginia registering voters. We had over 100 events around the country working to register people to vote. Launched iwillvote.com, where people can get involved in that. So, the summer is just the beginning, but we got to be doing this year round, and we're going to keep going with Rise and Organize.
Yeah, this is not a one and done. We have just begun. We're doing this thing. And, Heather, how much time we got left in the show tonight? We got 2 minutes. So, Amy, I want to say thank you. Big ups for you. You're doing a great job. You're making us proud. I want the nation to know Amy Kennedy. She does nothing but kick butt all the time. Thank you, Amy. You're doing a great job. And thanks, so Amy. Are you. And you know what I'd like to do to take us out is to play a tape. Because a great friend of everybody's, known as Michael Blake, we call him Blake affectionately, he got together and did a really cool video. And I just want to cue up that video, because he did the video on the National Voter Registration Day, and we are all about registering voters. We are all about knocking doors. We are all about community meetings. We are all about energizing people to defend key policy things like the Affordable Care Act, like DACA, other things like that. This is how we defend our democracy, by being involved. And so give a listen to my man, Mike Blake. And that'll wrap it up and do it for the evening.
Awesome.
What's going on, everybody? DNC Vice Chair Michael Blake here to talk about National Voter Registration Day. We believe that more people are part of the process is always better, and we have 3 reasons a part of that. Number 1, if we're serious about the process, then we're serious about our values. Our values are demonstrated when we go out to the polls, but we can only do that if we're registered to vote. Number 2, it's sacred. Those that came before us opened up doors for us an opportunity. You think about Congressman John Lewis and all those that opened up so many doors, but we have to demonstrate that we're being sacred about getting engaged to vote. But number 3 is about your voice. Your voice matters. Your voice has to be a part of the process. You think about the data that says 21% of eligible people are not registered to vote. We can't continue to be silent right now. We have to be a part of this, all the way from the school board to the Senate, from the city council to Congress, from the state house to the White House. Go out and get registered. iwillvote.com. iwillvote.com. Get registered. Let's get mobilized. This is how we rise and organize. We do that first by getting registered to vote. Join us on National Voter Registration Day.
All right, everybody. So, hey, that was Michael Blake, Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee, and he is a fired-up dude who believes in knocking doors and getting people registered to vote on October 2nd. October 3rd, sorry about that, October 3rd, we're going to have none other than Senator Chuck Schumer and Representative Nancy Pelosi. We're going to have the minority leader in the House, the minority leader in the Senate, coming to talk to you about Democratic future, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how you can get involved. This has been another edition of Democrats Live. Want to thank my man, Ryan Doyle.
Thanks,
Heather, thank you. Big ups to you. Y'all don't know him, but Mitch is back there on the 1s and 2s, spinning the disc. He gets it done out there. Come back and check it out next week on Democrats Live.